This is MMA Oddsbreaker. Okay, let's get started with our Oddsbreaker segment. Let me introduce the first guest, the promoter of Cutthroat MMA, Mike Davis. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And also joining us from the popular website angrymarks.com is Steve Jewin. Steve, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Nick.
All right, both of you guys are very familiar with the show, so you know how it works. But for those that do not, our sponsored sportsbook, BetDSI.com, has donated a $5,000 bankroll for both Steve and Mike. Now, they get to bet $500 either on the favorite or the underdog. I've selected 3 fights today, and we're going to get started with the first one. It comes to us from Bellator 66, Cleveland, Ohio, and we're going to get things rolling with Mike first. Mike, it's a rematch between Eddie Alvarez and Shinya Aoki. Now, Aoki did win the first fight between the two, but Alvarez is actually opening up as the favorite, minus 200. The comeback is going to be plus 150 on Aoki. Mike, give me your thoughts and give me your bet.
You know, I'm kind of caught in between here. You know, my heart tells me to bet Alvarez, especially after watching his last fight against Michael Chandler. But when you look at the odds, Aoki is actually the smart person to bet. You know, they have a common opponent, Joachim Hansen. Aoki went 1-1 against him. You know, one of his loss was in a 4-man tournament, so I'm not really going to count that because he went 3 rounds against Kao Uno previous to that. But when they had fought, he heel hooked Eddie in 2008. He's on a 5-fight winning streak, and I know after watching that Mike Chandler fight, Eddie Alvarez is going to be haunted by what happened to him and losing that fight. And I truly believe you're going to see a much better and improved Eddie Alvarez if that's possible. But when you look at the odds, the smart bet is Aoki. I would max my bet out on Aoki based on the odds that you're given.
So you're going to roll with the underdog here. Aoki is going to be plus 150. So Mike's betting $500 to win $750 if Aoki wins the fight. Let's throw it over to Steve. Steve, what do you think? Do you agree or disagree with Mike?
With respect, I'll disagree. I find that Alvarez is actually the smart bet here because first, that last fight between Aoki and Alvarez was in Japan, so different place, different format, a less experienced Alvarez. I don't think he was prepared for the kind of reaction he would get there, and the submission skills of Aoki that, you know, as a Japanese fighter who fought mostly in Japan, he probably hadn't scouted him that well going into the fight. So my thinking is this time Alvarez isn't going to make the same mistake twice. He's fighting in the U.S. There won't be any jet lag issues. He's going to look really crisp, and he's got a lot of different ways to win the fight. You know, he's won 12 fights by KO, 7 by submission. Aoki gets almost all of his finishes by submission, so he's not as well-rounded. So I don't think we can take anything away from Alvarez and the Chandler loss. And as a guy who's going to put a bet on this for the purposes of this show, I'm going to put my money on Alvarez and say that's the smart bet here.
Okay, so the guys are actually splitting. Steve is going to go with the favorite in Eddie Alvarez. You're going to lay the juice. It's going to be $1,000 to win $500. So both of you guys had some very valid points, and we're going to see how this fight plays out April 20th.
Well, that's it for another episode of MMA Oddsbreakers. You can look for the odds that Nick broke right here on the show to start popping up at the sport books by the end of the week. And I want to thank our special guests, Steve Jewin and Mike Davis. Great job on the Oddsbreaker segment, guys. Thanks a ton.
And don't forget, you can always check us out at Twitter, at MMA Oddsbreaker, for all the latest show updates. For Miguel Iturrate, I'm Nick Kalikas saying until next time, enjoy the fights.